100 years ago, at the Grand Lodge Convention in Chicago, the Order resolved to build the Elks Veterans Memorial. The organization was 52 years old then, same age as me, and it was starting to think about its place in the world, the mark it would make, its legacy. In 1923, 1 year after the first issue of the Elks magazine was published, construction began on this building. The cornerstone was laid in 1924, and in 1926, at another Grand Lodge convention in Chicago, the building was dedicated to the more than 1,000 Elks who lost their lives in World War I. A massive crowd of Elks and their families turned out for that dedication. The crowd filled the grounds and spilled out across the street to the park that the building overlooks. The building was a magnificent achievement. It featured Indiana limestone, murals and sculptures from the finest artists of the day, 26 different varieties of marble from all over the world. The wood that you've seen on our set, it's hand-carved English and Scottish oak from the same forests that provided the wood for the ships of the British Navy. This massive dome, from the star at the center of the floor to the center of the dome above, measures 94 feet. Can you imagine how proud those delegates must have felt back in 1926? Still, there was one Elk who thought we could do better. And the next year at the Grand Lodge Convention in Cincinnati, we elected a judge from Springfield, Massachusetts, to be our Grand Exalted Ruler. In his acceptance speech, John F. Malley said, "We have just built on the shores of Lake Michigan a monument of exquisite beauty." But Malley did not want this building to be our greatest achievement. Why? Because beauty fades with time. Time beats all things down. So he left Cincinnati and he traveled around sharing his vision for a new monument, one that would grow stronger with time. He wanted to build a more stately mansion with a dome so vast that it would cover the entire nation. His monument, he said, would unite the forces of the Order into a mighty army for the service of mankind. At the 1928 convention in Miami, the delegates endorsed his vision, and the Grand Lodge gave him a donation of $100,000 and said, "Build your Elks National Foundation." And that's what he did. Now, it took some time to get started. In 1931, we awarded our first grants, and they were scholarships of just $300, one for a student from every state. And the next year, 1932, we awarded a total of $5,500 to 4 state Elks associations. It wasn't much, but it was something. It was a start. Malley's vision was in motion. And thanks to your generosity and prudent investments, the endowment fund and our philanthropy just kept growing. This year, we will spend $36.1 million on Elks charitable programs. Today, Malley's vision is fully realized. You are the mighty army, and the endowment fund is the force that unites you. And together, we have built an Elks legacy that is every bit as beautiful as this building. I want to thank you for joining us for the summer series, all summer long. Tonight's the final episode, and we're going to use it to answer your questions. So why don't we get started? It's time to watch the finale. it going?
Good.
How about my mask?
How about it?
Well, you're all dressed up for the finale.
I sure am. I mean, how could you not be dressed up in this room?
That's right. I classed it up a little bit too, even down to my mask. It's a new mask. First time wearing it. Not sure I like it as much as the Scooby-Doo mask and the Star Wars mask that I've been wearing.
Well, the finale requires, you know, a little bit of a gussied up look.
It does, yeah. We're trying to be as fancy as this room we are in. This is the reception hall of the Elks Veterans Memorial. We have yet to show it off during any of our videos, but it is quite a room.
It is quite a room.
Of course, it was featured in the movie Richie Rich from, I think, the early 1990s. This was Richie Rich's dining room, if you remember that movie.
I think 1993, actually.
1993,
it's in
what
part
year
of our,
that was?
Scholar scavenger hunt trivia.
Okay, right. But today, this is the finale of our summer series, and it's a little bittersweet.
It sure is. It's been lovely spending the summer with you and,
I
and
feel
with
like,
our viewers.
I feel like this is as close as we've been to violating social distance protocols. Like the set demands slightly, we're a little bit closer than 6 feet.
This might be 5 feet.
Hoping for the best. It has been a fun summer series. It's, you know, one of the silver linings for us when the convention was canceled was, you know, we didn't have that grueling, you know, for you it's about a week, for me it's 10 days on the road, living out of a suitcase, early mornings and late nights. And so it was nice. And also being able to celebrate the 4th of July with family was a nice silver lining. And then we decided that we wanted to share that experience with our viewers through the summer series, and it seemed like this is going to be much easier than a convention.
It's not bad.
It's been its own sort of grind. So it's nice to be at the end of the road, but at the same time, it's been fun, and it's been fun sharing with all of you and engaging with you in the chat and the comments, and you know, I'm going to miss that for sure.
For sure. And I'm looking forward, though, to what we're going to be talking about today.
Well, we're going to answer their questions,
right?
We've asked you to send us questions. We got a bunch of really good ones, and we're going to get right into that, and we are going to take a stab at answering the questions you threw at us.
Wow.
Now, if you didn't get around to asking us a question, or if you did ask a question and you hear our answer and you don't feel like we gave you what you want, there's going to be another opportunity, right?
Right. We're going to take a break on Friday, whatever date that is, the 28th, I believe, at 10 a.m. Central on Facebook Live. So again, if we don't give you a sufficient answer today, or if something else pops into your head, we'll see you at 10 a.m. Central Time on the 28th.
And we've had about 36 hours to vet these questions and rehearse our answers. Like, we're going to answer what you throw at us in the chat on Friday.
Yeah.
So, boom, it's no holds barred. It's the real deal. You're going to get our raw responses in the moment.
Right.
So, no filter.
No filter.
All right, but why don't we, without further ado, why don't we just get into this, right? You wanna ask me the first question?
I think I will ask you the first question. It's a good one, and it's from Chuck Reed from Jackson, Missouri, lodge number 2652.
Now, Chuck Reed, I'm pretty sure, goes by the nickname Bull Taco on our YouTube channel.
That's right. Yeah. Well, here's what Chuck says, what he asks. I would love to know more about how you all track and process the individual donor recognition pieces. Do you all have some custom software that alerts you when someone reaches a threshold? Or is there someone actually looking at this manually, AKA running reports after a certain time period? You all do a great job at it, and I've always been curious as to what it actually entailed to accomplish. I had a great summer watching the Midday Minute as well as the summer series in this unprecedented time. You all rose to the occasion and did as much as you possibly could. Thanks.
Well, that's really nice of you to say, Chuck. Thanks. And we've enjoyed trying to engage with you all and sharing with you throughout the summer. And the Midday Minute certainly will continue, if not the summer series. So yeah, how do we track and process our donations? We use a CRM, or constituent relationship management software, a product, an off-the-shelf product that we were able to customize to fit our recognition programs. Marcy Northey, who's our donor services manager, often talks about the machinery of the donor services department. and the gears that happen there. More than any of the other departments, there's sort of like a schedule and routines there that happen. For example, they strive to process and commit all donations, which applies donations to certain constituent records, by Monday of each week. And then on Monday is Acknowledgement Day. That's when they run all of our acknowledgement letters and send those out for processing. And after that happens, we can run recognition. But we have a few different recognition programs that all run on different schedules. Like our annual giving program, the Foundation Fellowship, is monthly. Each month we will run that recognition. Cumulative is quarterly. And then Fidelity has its schedule, and so does the Loyalty Club. It's not quite looking at each record to find out who's reached it. It's a process that gets run on a certain schedule, and there's buttons that are pushed, and that's going to generate all the data that we need to create the letters and assemble the pins and prepare those mailings to be sent out.
Got to stay on top of that stuff.
Yeah, it's not super exciting, but it works pretty well. And again, the software we use allows some customization so that we were able to make it do what we need it to do to generate our recognition for people.
Any changes going to be happening this year?
Yeah, actually, probably the biggest change since 2001 is going to happen on March 31st when we eliminate the 3 lowest levels of our cumulative recognition program: the participating member, the sustaining member, and the distinguished member. We're trying to cut down on our shipping and mailing costs, and also get the focus where we want it, and we've been shifting the past few years to our annual giving program instead of our cumulative giving program.
Well, that's great, and it's great that we're getting that information out there now.
Yep.
So also kind of great that Chuck was able to ask a question that he'd been curious about.
Yeah, and hopefully that gave you your answer, Chuck. If not, shoot me a message and we can continue to discuss.
Thanks, Chuck.
All right. Debbie, I got one for you right here. Comes in. You know what? I wish we should have required that all questioners had names like Chuck Reed. Nice and easy to pronounce, no guesswork. But we didn't. So, all right, we're not going to change the terms mid-program. This one comes from Carol Lee Spages from Hackettstown, New Jersey Lodge, number 2331. Sorry if I got that last name wrong, Carol Lee.
I would go with Spages.
You think so? Spages?
Yeah.
It looks like Spages.
Looks like Spages.
You pronounce it just like it's spelled. Spages.
Exactly. That's how we do it around here.
And Carol asks, not counting the impact grant, last year, how many lodges in the nation were approved for all 5 grants? Promise, Beacon, Spotlight, Freedom, and Gratitude.
Well, Carol Lee, the answer to that question is 116 lodges received all of those grants. But we don't want to just stop there with our data. We're going to give you some more. See, when you give us time to prepare, we can.
Absolutely, right.
All right. So, how many Beacon grants did we award last year?
1,114.
Right. 327 Freedom grants.
1,289 Gratitude grants.
301 Promise grants.
Yeah, there was a mistake on our part there. And 546 Spotlight grants.
Right.
So all told, that's 3,577 grants we awarded last year to 1,500 lodges. And then, of course, only 116 of those lodges got all 5.
Right.
But I think really the much more interesting number there is the one that isn't there. That's if we awarded grants to 1,500 lodges, that means there were, what, 365 or so
right.
that didn't
get any.
take advantage of our grant program at all, which is
a shame.
Right. Left money on the table.
Absolutely, and I just want to point out that so far this year, since April 1st, with our COVID response with our grant year, we've already approved 2,040 grants.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Pretty cool, huh?
I have a question for you, Carol. When you were writing that sentence, how did you go about ordering the grants? Because for me, it's typical, like usually I kind of default to alphabetical order. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll list Gratitude grant first and then alphabetical, because Gratitude grant is the only one that requires support of the foundation to earn. But this is just, boom, Promise, Beacon, Spotlight, Freedom. Like, what's going on, Carol? Maybe you can tell us in the comments. Thank you.
Now we're asking the questions.
It's our show. We'll do what we want.
All right. Well, next we have Terrence Smith. So that's a name I'm pretty sure we nailed it.
Well, I actually know Terrence.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he's from Clayton, New Jersey Lodge, number 2132, and I met him in January of 2015 at New Jersey's Peer Leadership Conference. He's good buddies with Bill Oakley, who's also a friend of mine,
right.
and mutual friend. I met Terrence there, very active with the peer leadership program. Good guy.
Great. Is that when you got snowed in?
I did get snowed
Yeah.
in. I got trapped by a storm, and I was, it wasn't all bad. I watched my New England Patriots, that's my team, defeat the Seattle Seahawks with that, at the goal line stand there in my hotel room. And I kept my flights kept getting canceled. My flights on Sunday all day were canceled. My flights on Monday were canceled. So, and meanwhile, Megan and the kids they all had the flu at home, and they were sick and miserable.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I got to get back to them. So I rented a car and I drove through a storm. I drove through the Poconos
I remember you renting
in a car where the windshield wiper fluid wouldn't work.
Oh
So it was, but I made it.
We are so lucky to have you here.
Yeah, here I am.
Well, back to Terrence's question.
Oh, there's questions. Okay.
All right, so he has two. It's a
Okay.
two-part question.
Two-parter, all right.
I'm gonna throw this one to you. Question one, will the grants that were cut this year come back in the next cycle?
Well, I think the answer there is it depends on what the landscape looks like next year. And there's a few other questions coming up that are asking that same thing, so we'll defer the rest of that answer.
Okay, question two. Are there any additional grants that will be created or additional projects added to the Spotlight Grant? Also a very good question.
Yeah, and again, that's also going to depend, but in theory, I mean, the idea, and one of the things we really like about the Spotlight Grant is there's an opportunity each year to look at the projects, the
Right.
overarching projects, tweak them, add to them as
Absolutely.
makes sense, and develop those off-the-shelf projects that go along with those. So that's the idea of the Spotlight Grant.
Right.
Whether that happens in the 2022 grant year will depend on what the pandemic looks like, right?
Right.
But that's the idea.
Right, wish we had more certainty, but we don't.
Right.
All right,
So when we put out the call for questions, we said you could send them in by email, which so far all three of our questioners have done.
That's right.
Or you could send us a video question, and we received one video question from Chris Wilkie. He's one of our Power Midday Minute watchers.
he sure is.
And why don't we watch his question?
Hi, my name is Chris Wilkie, and I'm a member of Elks Lodge 484 in Newcastle, Indiana, coming to you from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. My question is about the SIP programs. When it comes to the SIP programs, we know that COVID-19 has made a big impact on this year's grants. As you are starting to plan for the next year of SIP, how are you taking into account for the COVID-19 impacts in the different events and activities that these grants are usually designed to help support?
All right, well, that's a good question from Chris. I'm going to guess works at Ball State. Do you know who Ball State's most famous alumni is?
David Letterman.
That is correct, David Letterman. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's true, but the urban legend that went around my campus, where I went to school, Harvard of the Midwest, was that he established a scholarship at Ball State for C students because he was a C student.
Aw.
Yeah.
You know what?
So good old David Letterman.
Good old David Letterman.
So again, that's, obviously we're still dealing with a lot of uncertainty around the pandemic. We don't know what next spring is going to look like.
No.
But I think the good news is that, and I'll get into this in a little bit, but from a funding standpoint, we're doing very well, much better than we were in March. So we're in good shape, and as long as that continues, we expect the funds to be there next year to fund the SIP at the current levels. And now whether we're offering, all 5 of those smaller grants or just 3 as we ended up doing this year, or 4 as we ended up doing this year, that's going to depend on whether lodges can serve actively.
Right, right.
And
We
if-
just don't know.
Right.
But one of the things I am most proud of since this, happened in March, the pandemic, is our ability to pivot and to step back and to offer our grants in a way that lodges can use them and use them, right away for
Right.
COVID relief or whatever makes sense in their community.
Right. So if they can't, then we will stay right where we are, I would assume, and offer those 3 grants, not counting Freedom, which is a veteran service grant,
Right.
and allow for passive projects, donations. If lodges can't, if the situation's approved and lodges can serve their communities actively, then I think we would go back to discouraging those donations.
Right. But thanks, Chris, for submitting a video submission
Yeah,
question.
thanks for that.
was
Great
awesome.
question. Great question.
And thanks for watching the Midday Minute all the time, commenting. Next one is from Leon Johnston from Cahaba Valley Lodge number 1738 in Alabama.
It's an impact grant lodge, I believe, right?
Yeah, it was an early impact lodge and received quite a few impact grants. All right, so Leon asks, what is the likelihood of the Promise and impact grants being reestablished on April 1st, 2021? What is the forecast level of funding for the Gratitude, Beacon, and Spotlight grants? Are there other grant programs under discussion that you can speak to? Thanks, and be safe up there.
Excellent question, Leon. And as we just sort of got into a little bit with Chris, like the endowment fund is performing remarkably well. You know, we got hammered like everybody else did from mid-February to mid-March. The fund was torpedoed. We were down, our all-time high was December of 2019. We were down 14% from that all-time high at the end of March. But right now, we're at 96% of that all-time high. And that was at the end of July, and that's, you know, August has been a very good month in the market. So the funds look like they're gonna be there. Now, the wild card is our designated gifts. You know, when we work on our budget and we look at the source of funds, 90% comes from the endowment fund, 5% comes from designated gifts, and the other 5% comes from a hodgepodge of places. You know, that donations so far are down 25% across the board, which could pose some problems, but designated gifts have not been hit by that. Right now, designated gifts are up 11% compared with last year. So they're hanging in there. And if that continues, it looks like we're gonna have the funds we need to keep funding the SIP at current levels. Now, what the projects and the components look like is gonna be based on, as we just said, what the pandemic looks like. Can lodges get out there and serve their communities? Beacon grants are currently at $3,500. We increased that by $500 over what we had planned to do because we did not fund Promise grants, and we're not going to offer any new impact grants. So if we are offering Promise grants next year, and if we are offering new impact grants next year, then Beacon grants would likely go back to $3,000. That's the best we can do. A lot depends. You know, we'd like to bring back Promise grants. We'd like to bring back impact grants, but that's going to depend on whether those two grants make sense across the board.
Right. I mean, and I love too that our grants and appropriations over the last 10 years has increased by 108%, right?
It is, we seem to have reached an inflection point. The past 10 years, as Debbie said, our spending on programs has more than doubled to $36.1 million, right? 108% increase. If you look at the previous 10 years, over that period, spending increased by just 22%. So we're at, you know, this is, you know, the fund is growing, and therefore our spending is growing. Now we expect it to stay somewhat flat for the 21-22 fiscal year just because of what's happening, but flat's pretty good in light of what we're going through.
Right, in this climate, flat is good.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Leon.
Good question.
Good question.
I've got a question for you from Nancy Oakes.
Go for it.
From Ocean Shores, Washington, Lodge number 2581. Nancy writes, we all know how challenging this year has been. You got that right, Nancy. Would it be possible for you to ask other lodges for ideas on how to safely combine youth programs and reach out to our youth with these ideas? It would be wonderful to get a cross-section of ideas. I feel our kids are the ones that are suffering the most from our inability to interact with them.
What a great question. They're all great questions. So thanks, Nancy, for that one. I'd like to say that in the SIP office, you know, we put together what we call Instagrants. So it kind of takes away the need to have to figure out exactly what a project would be. It's our way of saying, like, this is a really great, this is a great project, and we almost like an off the shelf. Here it is. Here's an idea. Get going with it. So I would suggest that you look there. That would be one place to get some ideas. Any grant that we feature through any of our social media platforms or in any of our publications, I'd also consider that an excellent project idea. But also, I guess a place that could be more collaborative, right? A collaborative approach to, you know, throwing this question out there and getting some responses would be the Elks message boards.
Well, that's the idea of the message boards,
right?
Is it's a place for Elks to gather and exchange ideas, like a virtual lodge,
yeah.
if you will. Oftentimes it devolves into bickering.
Well, hopefully not
or
with a
nonsense,
question like this.
But you know, that's a great place. It's a great resource that we ought to be using to exchange ideas with one another and see what works best and what can, you know, this program in your lodge may not work for another, but it might, you know,
Right.
and it's a should be a great place for us to go and talk about what we're doing, what we would like to do, and see who has ideas, who can help.
Right. And the one thing we do know is that our grants coordinators are passionate about what they do. So I'm sure that if they are on the message board, they'd be happy to respond.
That's right.
Bounce some ideas off of each other.
Thanks for the question, Nancy.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, moving right along. Here we go.
Okay.
This is kind of cool too, because this comes from Inwe Owawe, and he's a 2018 Most Valuable Student Scholar, sponsored by Newburyport, Massachusetts, Lodge number 909. So great, we got some scholars asking questions too. He also is in the class of 2022 at NYU, so
That's cool.
pretty cool.
I love that that our scholars have been watching our content and commenting. We've seen that on the Midday Minute and some of the other things that we're doing. We had top winner from a couple years ago, the top male from a couple years ago, attended the
Shiv?
2 Grands, I think. Yeah, Shiv Patel, right? So it's been nice to see.
Yeah, Shiv's up at Northwestern and was with us for 150 for 150. Anyway, Eni asks this question. Does Elks have any international lodges or do any work to support international causes? Thanks.
I mean, we do have like what we call the 4 area lodges. Puerto Rico, which of course is part of the United States.
Puerto Rico.
Panama Canal Lodge, Guam, which is a territory, and then the Philippines.
Manila.
And so those lodges, especially Philippines and Panama, they'll be using ENF funds to serve their communities.
Right.
I wouldn't say it necessarily rises to the level of international issues.
Right.
But some of the issues they're addressing may be different than the ones that lodges here are addressing.
And I would also say that our support of our scholars in and of itself is supporting international causes because
Right.
so many of them are, you know, doing service abroad and starting nonprofits that serve countries that are underserved or unserved. So there's that too.
Right, there's the ripple effect of our philanthropy. We give somebody a scholarship and we are investing in their education, but also we have a hand in everything they go on to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for submitting that question.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going.
We heard from R.A. Pickett. What does the R stand for? R.A., do you know?
I should know. I'm going to go with Richard,
Richard?
but I'm not sure. He goes by R.A. and he is a dear friend
R.A. Pickett, yeah.
from Santa Monica.
Santa Monica Lodge, California Lodge number 906. And he asks, why don't we hear more about the Malley Society during these videos from Foundation? R.A., of course, is a member of the Malley Society, as am I. I did talk quite a bit about John F. Malley, our founder, in my intro tonight. I guess the answer to that is, first of all, we are grateful for all, I think it's right now, I think we have 115 active members of the Malley Society, something like that. And we are grateful for all of them because they've demonstrated the highest level of commitment to a charitable organization, which is to plan a gift, to include us in their will in some fashion. So we are grateful to all of them, but I think in general, our approach at the foundation, our approach to fundraising is program-centric. We try to lead with our programs. That's what we talk about, and that's what we're trying to sell. And we try to interest people in the work we do. And when they're ready to make a gift, we'll talk to them about how to do that.
Right. And we feature, we feature different donors at different levels in our publications and
right,
stuff.
Right. So occasionally we'll have a story about a Malley donor as a way to passively promote the society. But Malley donors do receive a custom pin that that represents John F. Malley's vision of the foundation as a temple of philanthropy that would never be finished.
Right.
And they get a medallion with the same logo on it, and they get an invitation every year to our major donor event.
Right. Hot ticket.
If you're interested in learning more about the Malley Society or perhaps joining, give us a call or head over to the website, elks.org/ENF.
All right. We have another question.
Okay.
And this question is from Adam Tucker. He's a 2017 Most Valuable Student Scholar sponsored by Burien Washington Lodge number 2143. And he's with the Yale class of 2021. So he asks, "Hi ENF team, I'm writing to submit a question for the final ENFtoYou episode. I'm extremely grateful to the Elks for supporting my college education through the Most Valuable Student Scholarship. I'm interested in the history of this program. When and how was it started? Thank you for all the excellent programming this summer. Best, Adam Tucker."
Oh, thank you for watching, Adam.
Yeah. So, speaking of John F. Malley, Springfield, Massachusetts Lodge number 61's very own, right?
Yep.
He was the board chair in 1931 when we offered our first scholarships.
Right. He was the board chair from the time we founded the foundation in 1928 until he died in the 1960s.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
quite a span of time.
Yeah,
so
but you're right. 1931, he was the chair.
1931, we offered a single $300 scholarship.
A single $300 scholarship to a winner from each state.
state.
Right.
Right.
And that's where it started, right? He was committed to education. I think it became that model became the Most Valuable Student program in 1933.
That's right. And what happened in 1947?
Well, to me, that's one of the most interesting components of the Most Valuable Student contest. We get a lot of flack about why the genders compete separately currently. In 1947 is when we started offering an equal number of scholarships for males and females, and at the time it was because there weren't a lot of women going to college, right. And the opportunity there weren't as many opportunities for women to go to college, to have funding for college, and so we wanted to help with that, and we wanted to ensure that there were scholarships set aside for female applicants. Now you fast forward 80 years, 90 years to today, and girls are out applying boys for the Most Valuable Student Scholarship by 3 to 1. So 75% of the applications we receive are from girls. And we need to have the separate, boys and girls, male and female scholarships to preserve scholarships for boys, right? It's come full circle.
It has come full circle. So,
or not full circle, but flipped, just on a 180.
Yeah, flipped on its head.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's pretty cool that in 1947 that the Elks did that.
Absolutely.
For our scholarships.
Yeah.
And like Jim said, we keep it going for now completely different, the complete opposite reason.
For a different reason, right? Same reason, different gender.
And then I think one other milestone I'd like to mention in terms of the history is 2014 with the introduction of the Leadership Weekend.
Right.
Right? So that was the first year we had 20 top awards, 50,000, 40,000, 30,000, and then 14 of the finalists receiving $20,000 scholarships. So if you got an invitation to the Leadership Weekend, you were going to get $20,000. And
an opportunity at something more.
To get to know who the Elks are throughout the weekend programming. So I think that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, and really since 2008, we've been working to turn all those Elks scholars out there and all the new ones we're adding to the pipeline each year into a network.
Right. Thanks for asking, Adam.
Yeah.
Happy to talk about it.
Okay, how about this one from Ryan Geisenhoff from Vestal, New York Lodge number 2508. And he asks, how do you get a lot of people interested in the Fidelity Club? What is something we could entice them with to get this program going in our lodge? Well, first of all, for those who don't know, the Fidelity Club is?
It is our monthly giving program.
That's right.
So you just sign up and you don't even have to worry about it.
And who coined the name Fidelity Club? That's right, Debbie did, right here. She attended one of our development meetings as a programs person, was listening in and suggested Fidelity Club, which really works with the Elks. It's one of the cardinal virtues, right? I guess I would answer this probably the same way I answered our ACE question is, we try to sell people on the work that we're doing. We sell them on our programs, our scholarships, and what's happening there. The SIP, of course, the resources that we are providing to every lodge to go meet needs and address issues in their communities. The Hoop Shoot, last episode was all about the Hoop Shoot and what we're doing there. We're developing gritty kids. And grit is the best indicator of future success. Our drug education program, helping to provide not just alternatives to drug use, but helping people understand, why they should make healthy choices.
Right.
The state grants that we do, right? You sell people on that. And once they buy in, the next logical question is, how do I support that organization? And that's when I think you're best served to lead with the Fidelity Club. What you want to do is, our model for so long was to try to get a $10 donation, $10 a year for 10 years. The problem is when you start asking somebody at $10 and they say yes, you can't say, how about 20?
Right.
You can't go up the ladder, right? You need to start up and work your way down. So it's an easy thing to do is start with, would you like to make a monthly gift? Then you can settle on an amount, but start there, and you can always settle for a one-time gift of whatever amount, but start there. But the first thing you want to do is sell them on the work we do.
Exactly. And it couldn't be easier once you sign up, right?
Yeah.
You don't even have to think about it again.
Right. Now there's some cool recognition benefits for our Fidelity Club. Once you achieve your 12th gift, you get a pin, a Fidelity Club pin, and then there's attachments for that pin at various levels, 25, 50, 100, 150. And there's also, as soon as you join the Fidelity Club, you will get a sticker for your membership card, and you'll get that every year. You can show that off to people.
Yep.
So,
Love a sticker.
know the benefits, start your ask there, but sell them on our programs. And also, I think it's focus on your first-time donors, new donors. Just start them right away with that ask for the Fidelity Club. I think going after the people who have long histories of giving to the foundation, they're already working. That's working. Don't rock the boat there, unless they have questions for you, of course. But sell our programs, get them interested in what we do, and once they're ready to start the conversation about supporting us, begin with the Fidelity Club.
Thanks, Ryan.
You want to ask this next one?
Sure, I do.
Okay.
On a roll. All right. Next question is from our friend Don Benke from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, lodge number 299. And he asks, how many people actually work in the ENF area of the Grand Lodge? Looking at all the different programs supported by your staff, plus handling all the donations and dealing with the requests and follow-up needed on the SIP grants, you must have a staff of 125 people.
It would seem like it, wouldn't it, Don?
Not only handling these tasks, but answering emails and phone calls, I'm impressed. How does it all fall into place? Well, we do not have a staff of 125.
We are harsh taskmasters, Don, so we were able to get a lot out of a little. Actually, our full staff, our full complement, which we are finally at, is 19.
19. In a couple different departments, right?
And on the fundraising side, Don, where I think you spend most of your time, we basically have 4 working on development, and then is it 5 or 6 on the back end donor services side?
Nice. We have our programs department. Just a scholarship office has a staff of 3, as does the community investment program, and Hoop Shoot is a staff of 1. We have 1 youth programs associate, and then
you.
Me. Development, 2 people heading up development, so doing our fundraising for us, and then of course the communications team that helps us put this all together.
And, and of course one of the reasons it works is because we have so many outstanding volunteers like you, Don, and a lot of the fundraising, most of the fundraising for the foundation is handled by people like you working in your lodges, working in your states to raise money for us.
Absolutely.
Right? So we can focus our fundraising. We do some direct mail appeals, but we can focus more on selling the story of the work we do, sort of greasing the tracks for people like you, so that when you're out there asking people to support the foundation, they know what we do and they want to be a part of it.
Indeed, and if anybody would like to find out more about our staff, you can visit elks.org/ENF and click on the who's who and go to the organizational chart, and there are bios on each of the staff, so it's a fun way to see, get a little personal personal insight into what everybody is like.
Yeah, but thank you for the compliment, Don. It's nice to hear that our work is appreciated.
Yes. All right.
All right, I guess this is our last question.
This is it.
Holy moly. All right, this one comes from our good buddy from the Hoop Shoe program, Mark Alderman from Mount Airy, North Carolina, lodge number 2061. And Mark asks, during all this pandemic, what would you say has been the hardest thing to overcome? Again, a big thank you to all the ENF staff.
I love that question.
Yeah, it's a really good question.
You want me to go?
Sure. I got my answer too, but why don't we
All
both
right.
answer this one?
I'd say the hardest thing to overcome was the loss of your beard.
Mark's tripping over his beard. Have you
Yeah.
seen that thing?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a look.
What are we taking a look at? Debbie, I'm going to be honest. Your quarantine beard is pretty weak sauce.
Yours looks really good.
Thanks. You know what's not a standout of the pandemic is this beard I'm trying to grow. I asked my kids what they thought about it, and one of them said, I think it was Patrick, said, "That's not a beard. You just have some hair on your face." While we're all isolated, we thought we would share our great coiffures with you once a week instead of every other week. We are fortunate to live in a place where these things are plentiful, and I encourage you to use them. I got carried away myself. My hair is a mess right now.
Were those the clippers?
That was the clippers. I was fiddling with the clippers. As for me, the clippers I mentioned last episode, which were helping me to keep things kind of tight, they broke. And so I've been without for about 5 or 6 days. And I feel like my hair is about to jump the shark.
Uh-oh.
So maybe you can tell us what you think of the new frames or whether I should shave my beard. Tell you what, I'm getting a lot of pressure to do that.
Are you? Is the pandemic over?
That's what I'm saying, right? I'm not shaving until we can, until we've licked this thing once and for all.
That's right. I stand with you in solidarity, though.
Right.
I am not your wife.
Wow.
Beard long and prosper.
Yeah, that's something right there. I had no idea. And it looks good. I miss it too.
Well, that wasn't even a plant question. It just was a perfect setup for
that was
in memoriam.
That was very nice. Very nice piece, and quite an ode to my old friend.
That's right.
The beard.
That's right. Well, in all seriousness, I would have to say, though, it was hard to overcome that. But I think for me, the blow of canceling the hoop shoot, the regional contests, and then the national finals was the hardest thing to overcome.
Yeah.
Because it was just so raw and so, in the moment, like that crisis moment, that we were like, we're not crisis communication people, right? But we had to do our best to address it. And then once that happened, things started falling into place a little bit for us. Like we were like, okay, now we know what we need to do. This isn't normal. This isn't going to go back. We're not going back April 1st. But what was the hardest thing for you?
Well, that's a great answer from a work standpoint. I'll take a personal standpoint for me is, Megan and the kids started, Megan started working from home on March 13th, and the kids started e-learning on that day. And I joined them on March 20th. And, from that time and for really since then, really, certainly until school ended, we were working, we were parenting, and we were teaching. And it was really, really tough.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
It's a lot to balance,
But we got through it, and thank God for things like Zoom.
Seriously. Good timing for Zoom.
We went, we took isolation very, very seriously, and we went from, from March, like the last contact I had with people at work other than through a computer screen was March 16th, March 19th. And then from March 20th until the end of May, we had a handyman in the house once, and Megan's parents stopped by once to see the kids. And that was it. Mm-hmm. We would get out and walk around, but that was it. It was just the four of us driving each other crazy. And that was tough, but we got through it. And again, doing the Zooms and the interacting with people that way really helped.
For sure. Well, that was a great question, Mark, and thanks for asking it and allowing us to set up that wonderful little secret piece we had ready to debut tonight. So
That's
thank you.
at least the third time you've surprised me with something like that. Fourth time, Debbie. So thank you.
You're welcome. I can't take credit for the idea. It was Kate Edsey's.
Oh, that was a good idea, Kate.
Well, those are our questions.
That's it. Again, I want to remind you that we're going to be doing this again on Facebook Live on Friday. That's going to be like the official end to all this content we've been bringing through the summer series, the final take a break. If you didn't like one of the answers or felt like we missed what you were asking, or if you meant to ask a question but didn't get around to it, or if you've thought of a question that you would like to ask, join us on Facebook Live at 10 a.m. Central. And we will, you don't need to email us in advance, although you can just ask it right in the chat. Fire away, and you'll get our unvarnished, unfiltered responses.
That's right. No time for prep.
Right?
Right.
All right, Debbie, I guess we've reached the time of the show where we need to tell people how they can win a $1,000 donation to the charity of their choice. Could be any charity.
Any charity.
Doesn't have to be us.
Nope, doesn't have to be us. $1,000.
You know, I should probably stop saying that because so far none of them have given it back to us, and that's okay.
It is okay.
It's totally okay. I'm just kidding. We want you to use this. We want you to decide where to send this money, and we're happy to do that.
So, Jim, what's the hashtag that our viewers need to use tonight?
Now, this is a true full circle. Comment below with the hashtag ENFtoYou. And I guess there's one more thing we'd like people to do, right?
That's right. We want them to comment on this episode.
That's not what I was thinking.
Okay. What were you thinking?
I was thinking that what we wanted them to do was give us some feedback. Like, what have they thought about the summer series? And
If only we had a survey.
we do, right?
Look
We
at
want
that.
you to visit enf.elks.org/summer survey. And there's just a few questions there. Just give us some feedback. We actually read that stuff and look at it, and that's how we tailor our programming. And we want to know what you liked, what you didn't like, what we could have done better, what you might like us to do in the future, right?
And comment. Comment below.
And don't forget to comment below with the hashtag ENFtoYou for your shot at a $1,000 donation to the charity of your choice. And I think that, I guess we can just rest on that video of my beard.
That's right.
I think we're done,
Oh, parting is such sweet sorrow.
right?
Right?
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
We have so enjoyed spending our summer with you. I know I speak for the entire staff when I say,
Thank you for tuning in to the ENFtoYou Summer Series. It has been incredible to see what the ENF means to you.
In the beginning, we heard from our top 2 MBS scholars, Sarah and Santiago.
We were inspired by their resilience and hope for the future. It gave us hope, in spite of COVID-19.
The Elks gave us hope too. Elks always care, especially in times like these. We wanted you to show that off.
That's why we featured how to get social and how to utilize social media to promote all the amazing things that your lodges are doing in your communities.
The 2 grants shared what makes them who they are and about their journey as Elks, showing the strength of the order.
We know that times like these won't change our dedication to building perseverance and strength through the Hoop Shoot.
And your SIP grant projects have shown us just how dedicated you are to your communities.
When the pandemic began, we didn't know what it held in store, but we knew that the Elks would be there.
Thank you for all the work that you do to build stronger communities. We're thrilled to be a part of it.
We've also enjoyed sharing an inside look at what we do every day here at the Foundation.
Thank you so much for your support at this time.
We recognize things aren't easy right now, and a lot has changed.
Which is why your decision to support us as donors, volunteers, and viewers means the world.
We don't take your support for granted. We truly don't. Thank you so much.
Until next time.
We've also tried to be a source of good news. Lord knows. I want to thank all of you for sticking with us right now. Across the street to the park that the building overlooks. Line? You ready? This is my actual office, by the way.
We're gonna get a 10 out of 10 on Room Raider. That's
Yeah.
what I might have needed some powder though during that. That's what I was like, oh my god, it's hot.
Okay.
Let the record reflect I am hot again. You're hot.
Every now and then, Debbie really brings her egg
Just came up with it.
in. With me. How was that?
That was great.
Okay. You want me to wash my hands again as well?
If that's cool. Well, you don't even have to actually do
All right. All right.
as long as we hear the sound.
Okay. All right. There's been times, this is the public room. I think you're gonna enjoy it. Let's have some fun. The two teams combined for a record. I know what it is. I just screwed up. One that would grow stronger with time. Man, I was nailing it. Okay. Kind of blew that, right? No?
There you go. Bye.